This video is a review of solving equations. You should have handout L1.2 Algebra Review on your desk and a pencil. And if you don't, then stop the video and go get them. In this video, I will show you how to solve two-step equations, equations with variables on both sides, and finally, the dreaded equation with fractions. I will show you two different ways of solving those. Okay, let's get started. The first type of equation we're going to work on are two-step equations. So the steps here are get all variables on the left-hand side and all the numbers on the right-hand side of an equal sign by adding the opposites. Next, we divide by the coefficient of the variable to determine its value. So that's a lot of words to describe what's going on. Here's my equation. It's 2d plus 3 is equal to negative 7. Step 1, I need to get this side to have just variables on it. Right now I have 2d plus a number. I'm going to move that number to the other side. The way I do is I do it the opposite. So the opposite of a positive 3 is a negative 3. So I'm going to subtract 3 here and subtract 3 here. If I have opposites, a positive 3 and a negative 3 is 0, they cancel. I have negative 7 minus 3 is negative 10. And I bring down my 2d. Next step, I need to get this alone, this d. So I divide by the coefficient of the variable to determine its value. The coefficient is 2. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. I can cancel, and I end up with d is equal to negative 5. Okay, I'm going to do one more example for you, and it's in the practice problems down below. This problem involved multiplication. This problem involves division. Okay, I'm going to do the exact same steps I did before. Our goal is to get k all by itself on one side and the numbers all by itself on the other side. I'm going to move that 3 to the other side by subtracting 3. Here I have 6 minus 3 is 3. I'll bring down my equal sign. A positive 3 and a negative 3 when I add them together is 0. And I'm left with k over 3. That's a division problem. The opposite of divide is to multiply. So I'm going to multiply this side by 3, and I'm going to multiply this side by 3. On this side, I have 3 over 3. 3 over 3 is equal to 1. So I can cancel it. On this side, I have 3 times 3, which is 9. And I'm done. Letter on one side, number on the other side. Okay, on this page, you have another 4 problems to practice. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video and do those 4 problems. All right, so we're on page 2. Page 2 involves solving equations 2. It involves equations that have variables on both sides. So our steps are to get the variables on the left side and all the numbers on the right side by adding and subtracting. Combine like terms. Divide the coefficient of the variable to determine its value. Now I'm going to do the exact same steps over here, just a little differently, but you can see that it's going to be the same steps. So I'm going to start by writing the problem, and I have 4x plus 4 equals 2x minus 6. All right, step 1, I need to get all of the variables on one side and all of the numbers on the other. So I'm going to do mine in 2 steps. They did theirs in 1. I'm going to move the 2x to the other side, because I don't want any variables on the left-hand side. Over here I have 4x minus 2x, which is 2x. I still have my plus 4, and I bring down my minus 6. Okay, next step, I need to get this number to the other side. The opposite of a positive 4 is a negative 4. On this side it cancels. I have 2x over here. I still have my equal sign, and I have negative 6 minus 4, which is negative 10. Okay, so now I'm to that part where it's divide by the coefficient of the variable to determine its value. So that's what we're going to do. Divide by 2, divide by 2, cancel my 2 over 2, and I'm left with x is equal to negative 5. Okay, on this page, there are 6 problems. I'd like you to stop the video and solve the 6 problems. Okay, so now we're at the dreaded let's solve equations with fractions. Step 1 is to get all the variables on the left-hand side of the number and all the numbers on the right-hand side, same as before. We want to divide by the coefficient of the variable. Ooh, yuck, because this time the coefficient is a fraction. And then I have a better way of doing it. So instead of dividing, we can move the coefficient by multiplying by its reciprocal or flip the fraction. So I'm going to show you what both of those look like. If I followed these steps, this would work. It's just not very pretty. So let me show you what it would look like. So solving equations using the not very nice method. If I start off, here's my equation. Step 1, I'm going to move the 2 to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 2 and subtract 2. I'm left with 3 over 2x is equal to 9. And now the next step says divide by the coefficient. And I can do that. So I can divide here and divide here. I have 3 halves over 3 halves, which cancels, and I just get 1x. And over here I have 9 divided by 3 halves. So it looks like that. And I can do that because we all know the next step would be 9 times 2 over 3. Put a 1 at the bottom of the 9, and I get 18 over 3. 18 divided by 3 is 6, but that's a lot of fraction. So I'm not sure that I want to do that. You can always do that. But let's look at a better way. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways to solve this. This is the first. Same steps at the beginning. I want to move the 2 to the other side. Now I'm left with this fraction. The way we move a fraction when it's just one variable right here, so it's a nice simple equation, I need to move that fraction to the other side. Then I'm going to do this step 2, multiply by the reciprocal. So instead of dividing, I'm going to multiply. I multiply by the number and I flip it upside down. So this is 3 over 2, this is 2 over 3. Notice what happens when I do that over to the side. 2 over 3 times 3 over 2 equals 6 over 6. But what's 6 over 6? It's equal to 1. So that's your way of getting rid of that fraction on that side. So I'm multiplying here, and I get 6 over 6. If I do the same on this side over here, remember you always put a 1 at the bottom. On the top, I have 2 times 9 is 18, and 3 times 1 is 3. 6 over 6 is just 1x, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. Okay, so you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. This is the method I would use if I were you. It's much easier. All right, so now try the 4 problems at the bottom. All right, here's the last step. So this is solving equations with fractions, and some students aren't comfortable with multiplying by the reciprocal, so we'll do this a different way. Step 1, again, get all the variables on the left and all the numbers on the right. With a fraction, we divide by the bottom number. The opposite of divide is to multiply, so multiply by the bottom number. And step 3, now divide by the coefficient. All right, so let's take a look what that same problem looks like. I have 3 halves times x minus 2 is equal to 11. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, just like we did before, and I'm now here to this point. So this is the point where we multiplied by the reciprocal last time. This time, instead of doing that, I'm just going to say this is actually a division problem. This is 3 divided by 2. So what's the inverse of division? Multiply. So let's multiply both sides by 2. Then I get to cancel here and get to cancel here. What am I left with? I'm left with, well, if I multiply across the top, sorry about that. The way I did this was 2 times 6. The 3 is 6. And then 1 times 2 is 2. Sorry about that. I didn't cancel. So now I have 6 over 2x is equal to 18. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So now my next step is I'm going to divide. Divide both sides by 3. So divide by 3, divide by 3. And I get 6. So this just has 2 steps. Instead of multiply by the reciprocal, just think of it as a division problem and a multiplication problem. And we just always do the division problem first and get rid of that 1/2. When we get rid of the 1/2, we're just left with this. And now we divide by the 3. So you can either use this method or the other method. It doesn't matter which. Try these two now, and then you're done. Have a good day. I'll see you in class.